TFO for short. TFO was founded almost on a whim by Professor Nikhila and myself in June 2020 during the lockdown. Since then, TFO has had uninterrupted discussions on films from all over the world every Saturday at 9 p.m. on Zoom. It is a group of film scholars, researchers, students, teachers, and anyone passionate about cinema. It has been our practice to invite people to select and lead the discussion of the chosen film, which we watch in our own time and place. On some occasions, filmmakers, editors, and cinematographers have also joined our sessions. Aparna Sen, Amol Palekar, Girish Kasarvalli, and Adur Gopalakrishnan, to name a few. We have held film festivals such as East European, Iranian, Women's Cinema, and others. In the month of June each year, to celebrate our anniversary, we hold a smartphone short film making contest for students and a lecture series in various university departments. Today, we discuss detachment, and Vedant Chavda will initiate the discussion. Vedant is a mechanical engineer who has set his sights on a career in civil service. He has been diligently preparing for the UPSC Civil Services exam for the past 2 years. When away from his studies, Vedant enjoys delving into the world of cinema with a keen interest in exploring new genres and challenging his current mental frameworks through film. He finds that a good movie can not only entertain but also broaden his perspective and understanding of the world. Vedant, over to you.
Thank you, Geeta, for the introduction. And I have stopped being a mechanical engineer since I graduated from my college. So yeah, okay. All of that aside, let's Detachment is kind of a film that instigates intense reactions in the audiences from the beginning and further moves out to bring a feeling of too lost to be able to comprehend what has exactly happened as it ends, out of unwavering or maybe criticism. Whatever the case may be, I would like to start with mentioning a few broad themes which caught my attention during the movie itself or made me ponder upon after I had read some articles about it on Reddit and stuff. So, show of empathy and its limit is a major part of the whole film, where it says that there is a limit to how much empathy is showing to others, and after which you shall be doomed to get attached, and with which comes the trouble of unmet expectations. And somewhere along those lines is shown that the fact that how teachers are highly unnoticed or misunderstood when it comes to them being there for children. Um, a dialogue goes that the worst part about their job is not getting to hear a thank you from anyone. But then it also comes short when it, I think it also comes short when it comes to empathizing with the parents, where who were also, of course, the product of the same society and deserve to be understood with a show of patience and warmth. But the most loosely and inadequately portrayed character, according to me, was of Meredith's father, with no background as to why exactly he was the way uh, uh, which he was with his daughter. And was he it is a possibility that he himself was a failed artist whom this world had let down so much so that the only thing he wanted his daughter to be was not an artist, and as much opposite of it as it could be possible. So it is fascinating to see how they have not even once tried to put a perspective of a parent in the story, even after Meredith's death in the ending. So, like, it almost feels like a one-sided bashing of the state of the society, putting the blame on the parents, while on the other hand showing the teachers and the good, even after touching their relentless, dark, and uneasy parts of life. But then, apart from all this situation that the movie covers, there's our comes our main protagonist, Henry Barth, uh, which like the guy who had went through a lot of suffering and had seen stuff which was so intense and petrifying that he had developed a mechanism to defend himself from the unwelcoming world, always on the lookout for a retreat from the world around and moving from here and there to not and not consolidate his being anywhere physically and neither mentally, not wanting anything permanent. Substitute teacher, a grandson who has had it enough yet cares for you, and on, and a very, very off lover. Basically detached yet bound somehow or the other. It is also shown that everything that he has gotten attached to as kind of being lost or snatched away from him by the world around. Maybe and towards the end also, there's no, I could not find any like good sign or good show of detachment from his side, where he deliberately chooses to detach from anyone. Even after, even the end, he goes on to meet Erika and hugs her, and all of that uh, stuff happens. But then he also plays the same thing with Erika goes, where he plays a surrogate father to a teen and an unintended love interest for another one. He made sure that this time he detaches himself before the stuff goes south and decides to push away one young girl after realizing that some days we have a limited space for others and them kids need something else and not him. But then the other one goes on to part with the whole chaos itself and kills herself, which again brings on the whole uh, uh, unwanted detachment kind of stuff. And like, but among all this, there's one tricky thing that I'm very uh, I don't want to be overly critical about it, but then the show, the plot where he's towards the end, he's shown that it is shown that children have developed a loving interest towards him and doesn't want him to leave and all of that. Where in the beginning they were all mischievous and towards every other teacher they still are very unwelcoming and all. But then when it comes to a super teacher, he knows how to excite everyone and all of that. So like the story kind of, I didn't found it quite setting the, like they didn't try to put a lot of emphasis on how he's actually a teacher whom everyone loves. But then uh, like yeah, I found there to be like they could have added some more of those lectures where he talks about how double thinking is relevant, still relevant, and ubiquitous assimilation and stuff. So that was there, and I don't. I'm very again. It's a very personal thing, but yeah, that was there. And one more thing I would like to like, few more things I would like to share is that the use of freeze frames and images. There's a lot of those. There are a lot of those in the movie, and one being an collage created by Meredith, where how she sees him as a teacher, and then by the end, it actually gets to a point where the picture is recreated in somehow very weird and absurd manner, and like I didn't it was very difficult for me uh, to fathom all of that towards the end. But then, yeah, I would have really liked it if the movie ended where they hugged, Erika and Henry hugged each other, and a new light was coming to them. But then again, yeah, it would have not interested a lot of audiences. Maybe I'm not sure. So yeah, the one more thing was that sudden turn of emotions was shown by Henry at few places in the movie, and both of them were arguably like not like there were many, but the two of the most intense scenes where this sudden twist of emotions were shown was when he switches his voice to talk to his grandpa as his mother, and when he bursts out in anger when his colleague wrongfully confronts him about touching Meredith in the empty classroom and stuff. And interestingly, these are the most these two scenes where initially the ones where the zoom in to the face, to zooming in on the face was actually done, and we could see directly through his eyes and all that, as far as I remember. And then again, those zoom in feature were used. That not the feature, but like again the frames were used where Erica was being dragged out of his apartment, and Meredith and Henry were talking at the towards the end, and Henry tries to talk to Meredith about the last day, about the day that was about the day which was the last where Henry and Meredith talked. And so these incidents were the ones where zoom in while a feature were used, and from here, like throughout in the beginning of the movie, the use of grills and the grills as in the railing of uh, the what do you call it, the fences, the use of the fences. Like you can see through the fence that the teacher was exhausted, and he would just go on a fence and put himself on a fence. Then Meredith would look out of the window, and all of that was there. And right through the middle of the movie, I always thought that there has to be a scene. I was always looking so this was the second time I was watching Detachment, and I had not remembered a scene where they used mirrors, and I was very sure about like not sure, but then I always wondered that there that there was use of mirrors in the movie, and I was just waiting for that moment that they use mirrors. But then uh, I was like almost I gave up my hopes that there's not going to be mirrors with Ankaval. You remembered it wrong, but then the mirrors come in, and it happens after Henry has lost his grandpa, and he is in the bathroom of the old age home, or the emergency room slash old age home, or uh, what was the word? Assisted living apartment place. So that is when he actually looks himself in a mirror, and the second one is when he um, I guess after Meredith's death or before Meredith's death, where he goes to the school's washroom and washes his face or something. And both of these times are the times uh, after these are the times after Henry actually started to reflect upon himself and his actions and made amends. So right after the Meredith incident, he his grandpa has left this world, and he goes on to actually see him, and he again gets confronted in his head about the pictures of his mom and all of that. And then he goes to a mirror, he reflects upon himself, he makes amends, he comes back to home, uh, decides to let Erica go with the orphanage people, and then goes on to actually say that I am not the one, like the kids don't need me and all of that. So the self reflection happens, which he talks about in that monologue of his teaching. And there's one one and only scene where he actually was teaching something. So that was there, and uh, before coming to the use of red in the movie, I would like to add on to this one more thing, which was where the the like it was, as I talked about, every teacher in school was inadequate, and all of that. The narrative responded with that, and the narrative made a picture like that. And Henry stood out, and Henry was the one who actually was afloat from all the chaos that was going around him, and in the school or in everywhere. He was actually above the uh, other teachers, where other teachers were use like other teachers were either broken by the system or barely keeping the sanity intact by using wicked humor, or were bureaucratized, or a disciplinary diktat, uh, who were and the blame for all of that was on the parents, whereas, like, not on the parents completely, but then, yeah, the blame was on the students misbehaving constantly with them, and the blame for that was on the parents and the lack of proper guidance. But what I think about is that, but when I think about it, the movie actually like uh, does not talk about the society as a whole, the impact of the society as a whole on a on a children's mind. The lack of guidance is there, but then once it talks about the assimilation, the ubiquitous assimilation, where media and everyone is trying to put their thoughts in your head, and you have to enlighten yourself by reading, and that's why you need to read, and you need to build a perspective by yourself, and all of that is there. But then it also talks about the lack of guidance, and the one thing that again, I would repeat myself, that one thing I felt lacks is talking about the impact of the society that thinks that it is the lack of marks which is not, uh, you know, bringing prosperity to the town. It is the lack of students' grades, or the lack of performances of students, which is not bringing grades, which is not bringing prosperity to the town by buying houses and all of that. That was a very unique thing to hear for me. It was a very different thing to know, and yeah, that was there. And now coming back to that last, uh, the thing, the concept, the not the concept, but the theme of red, which I found to be very interesting, and was when, like, every time a lady was either mistreated or traumatized by something, they have, not every time, but the most of the times, maybe it was, maybe I lacked attention. Maybe it was my lack of attention if I had not got a scene. But like that. But like, yeah, every time a woman was mistreated or traumatized, the use of red, the use of color red was very prominent, and it was all over the frame. Like, not all over the frame, but a majority part of the frame was covered by red. So, for example, where once this principal was talking to her husband, and the dining hall of the house was fully red, and then Erica's the second time they meet, uh, Henry and Erica, and the second time they meet, and Erica asks Henry for $10 and all of that. The wall behind her was red, and they actually zoom in into the wall when they both go, when they both leave the frame. And then Meredith's blood all over her face, and Henry having some red on his face by the end, and the all the mother, uh, all the reflections of Henry's memory, where his mother was shown uh, in the naked, her naked, his naked body was shown. All of that was red, uh, a color red, not completely red, but like, yeah, the red reference was there, orangish red was there. And the 7 red chairs in the classroom is the one that has got me a very like that has got me to wonder a lot, because I'm not sure what the 7 is there, because the women are like, if you count the number of women being mistreated in the movie, it comes around 6. I I assume I as far as I remember. So like the 7th chair, I'm not able to understand that. And of course, Meredith's chair has always been had always been red. So at first I thought it was after her death that it was turned red, but no, it was not the case. It has always been red for some reason. So yeah, all of that was there. So uh, and this only the same thing happened towards the end, also towards the very end of the movie, where we see the empty classrooms and pages everywhere, pages of books spread out everywhere in the hall, everywhere in the corridor. And he actually asks his students, "Do you feel the weight on your chest?" And everyone raises their hands. And somehow, like, yeah, it was the end was very it left many things to be unfolded, I would say, and there are many interpretations possible of the end. The House of Usher, he reads about House of Usher, and I tried to read the whole thing, but I couldn't. I just couldn't do it because I lack attention, I guess. But no, I started reading about it, and I started reading it in the morning, and I just couldn't finish it. It would have been better if I had finished the book. It would have added to the meaning of the end, but I didn't do it. So yeah, sorry for that. And yeah, that was it from my side, I guess. These are the points I would like to make. I would like to uh, maybe revise them again. So one was show of empathy and its limit, and Henry being a Henry being detached from basically everything that he is part of, and then the use of frames, grills, glass, the fence, the grainy and shaky visuals, which were kind of disorienting in nature, but somehow helped with the immersion, and then the Henry's turn of emotions, and the sudden turn of emotions, which he shows, and the zoom ins on the characters, and self reflection part, use of mirrors, and yes, the color red. It was uh, These were the things that got me uh, pondering upon, that got me thinking about the specifics of the film. And yeah, all in all, it talks about like basic things we all know. It talks about like detachment from self and alienation, and then the lack of encouragement towards the teacher, and then the impact of trauma on children. Then again, yeah, that's that empathy and um, self reflection, and yeah, the need for the need to educate yourself about, like, not educate, but the need to form an opinion by yourself about your surroundings, and actually uh, being with yourself more than what being with yourself more than being with the others. Like, some, I mean, what I mean is, like, not, you know, like knowing that the others are uh, equally troubled and equally uh, traumatized and equally unaware of their existence as you are. So yeah, all of that, and yeah, I guess I would ask Geeta to open the floor for discussion.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vedant, for flagging several different points from the discussion points from the film, and your impressions of it. I quite liked your focus on the use of the color red, and Uh, Actually, when I started watching the film, I was immediately reminded of a very old film made in 1967. It was called To Serve with Love. And, like the brilliant Sidney Poitier was the teacher in that. And a very similar trajectory, plot trajectory, in the sense that he's an engineer, incidentally, the teacher, and he takes up this job because he doesn't have a regular job. And then he teaches a bunch of delinquent students who are very antagonistic and don't want to learn. And then finally, they all grow to really, adore him, to respect him. Something very similar happens in this film as well. So for me, it kind of immediately brought to mind that film, To Serve with Love. It has a lovely song also. And apart from that, this film is a strong indictment of the American public education system. When you said that there was that relationship between real estate and the school, that's how it actually functions in the US. People select, houses according to the school district, because if they have to put their children in a public school, then they have to live, within a specified area of that school. And that is the reason why that person was talking about how the real estate value of that district was going down, because nobody wanted, this school did not have a good reputation. So that was the kind of linkage that was referred to. And also, we need to remember that this teacher, Barth, is a substitute teacher. And he deliberately stays, I mean, keeps it that way. He doesn't want a permanent job. So that's also, some kind of, it's an indication of the larger theme of the film, which is detachment. And the irony of it is, despite his effort to be detached, I think he gets more and more attached, So there is that constant push and pull force between detachment and attachment, which I thought was very interesting. But anyway, let me now open it up for discussion. And in the meanwhile, if you wish to respond to anything I said, you can go ahead, Vedant. Otherwise, if you want to take in the questions, comments from the others, you can do that as well.
Yeah, I would like to add on to that substitute teacher wala part. So like it also talks like as the movie from the beginning, enforces on this fact that he's a substitute teacher and he has to be, and then he leaves and all of that. But then the emptiness of the corridors and on of these classrooms, it also makes you think that he is a substitute teacher and he has been doing this like forever, and he's deliberately doing this. So like, is it the case where he leaves every school in this condition only, or like because like maybe because yeah, so that also adds on to the how things actually happened. And maybe the case could also, like, people were also discussing that also on Reddit, that uh, uh, that maybe after the death of Meredith, uh, somehow the schools are destroyed, or maybe, and then he goes back to the same classroom and teaches to prove that he has been detached from all of that, and he just is doing his stuff. But then again, it's not. It doesn't sit quite well with the narrative that they're trying to push, or maybe not. So yeah, the end again is very, it leaves end to be interpreted in many more ways. So yeah, if anyone
Yeah.
has anything to say, please go on. Otherwise, I would keep on talking about how
Yeah, Nikhila, go ahead.
Um, yeah, so thanks Vedant for asking us to watch this very interesting film and for also opening out so many interesting points. I was thinking about two broad kind of points. One is the structure of the film, the narrative structure. So it opens out with what seems like an interview situation. There are a lot of teachers, yeah, who look like they're being interviewed about how they came into teaching, and we just see that, I mean, except maybe one for whom it is a kind of a choice, for most of the others, they have such different. So it's not like people have really wanted to do this, they've come with passion, and so somehow for everyone in this system, one has to go through it. So it's just as the students don't want to be there, often it is the teachers also who don't want to be there. So I thought, and also it keeps coming on this kind of meta commentary of as if he's recollecting what happened, and that's what we are watching in the form of the film, as he's telling this to the to some interviewers who are not visible. But there's a great show made of, okay, close the door, I don't want any interruption and all that. And then this story kind of, the rest of the narrative unfolds. So in that sense, it gives a certain, there is a detachment in terms of that time as well. So he's talking about a time which is past. So now he can actually look back with some detachment at what happened, and act on, or I mean recollect what had happened. So I was thinking of detachment also in that way. Certainly the way you talked about it, but also that the time has given him a certain detachment to look back at what had happened. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was, I mean, in pedagogies, in the pedagogical situation, so much, we think of as, in some ways, as like content transfer. In fact, when he comes in, the principal tells him, you have to finish the curriculum. So we just think of it in terms of pedagogy. I mean, pedagogy in terms of curriculum, in terms of what is to be taught and all that. But there is such an intensely personal kind of an engagement that unfolds in the classroom. I mean, and it's a whole range of responses, from animosity, resentment, to an erotic identification. I mean, learning involves the whole gamut of these emotions, and learning and being part of that pedagogical situation involves this whole gamut of emotions, and the way in which one invests as a teacher in student, or as a student in teacher. I mean, we have all gone through things that or emotions that generally are not supposed to be either invested in a student or in a teacher, and so on. So I thought this film for me was very strong in doing that, but also in terms of, I mean, so it's going into slippery ground. It's going into territory which people don't usually want to talk about, because even though we all have lived through it, but also in terms of how it can come to be perceived. So the colleague coming in and saying he's touching the student, and where he's comforting, and then it all kind of blows over when he thinks of himself being identified as his grandfather. So I'm not a pervert, and so the whole sexualizing of that encounter that also happens. So it tells us that, we are, and I mean, the film brought out this very kind of nebulous, slippery domain that, everyone who's been in an academic situation, in a pedagogical situation, is familiar with, right? So I thought that was very, very interesting in the film. And as a kind of knee-jerk reaction, he decides to send Erica away, though it is an extremely violent, kind of a gesture on his part, and she really kicks her way out of the house, and she doesn't want to leave and all that. So the limits, as you said, the limits of attachment and how detachment can be particularly violent after being so close. I thought some of these were very interesting moments for me in the film. As you said, that last part, the Poe section, was a little unconvincing even for me, the reading in the classroom. I mean, it made a great visual to end the class, end it with the class, and with the broken chairs and all that. But as you said, it was for me also a little kind of unconvincing to end it there. But thanks for the film. Very, very, very interesting watch. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts about it. Like I didn't actually like the thing you said about detachment and all that. That I couldn't have. I was not able to connect, but that also I would add on to my notes, because I was thinking in the same way, like about the same thing, about the film starting as a documentary, and then comes our I would say super teacher, who is shown in a very different light than the other teachers. So like the other teachers are only their pictures are there. They're talking about how they have joined and how they have like kind of not been able to get out of the schooling system. But then our guy comes and talks about all of that things, and then we get to know that he's a substitute teacher. So he's actually in the schooling system, but he manages to detach himself from it at the right time, or maybe something like that. So yeah, all of that also was there. So and these are the criticism also, majorly when people are criticizing about the film, they're talking about this only, the savior complex of a protagonist, where he finds the redemption by saving the two young girls. And when when both of them starts to push the limits that he wants, that he's comfortable in, he kind of pulls out the rug from their feet, and just story turns completely different for them also, and for him. So yeah, these are the so the internet community is totally divided upon the film being thought provoking, and at the same time being a uh, very heroistic, like portraying the protagonist as a hero of some kind and all of that. So yeah, it's indeed a very interesting watch. So yeah, anyone else would like to add
Yeah.
on?
Thank you, Nikhila. Okay, Prabhu, please go ahead.
Yeah.
You have
Thank you, Vedant, for introducing this interesting movie. I felt, firstly, I felt it is not a typical feel-good movie, like what you said about Sir with Love, which, whether it really happens in practice or not, it at the end of it leaves a smile on your face. Whereas in this movie, there is hardly even a smile on anybody's face, except probably the girl who gets exploited occasionally smiles. Rest of them, there is hardly any smile on them. The second thing, as you mentioned, one of you mentioned about the temporary nature of his job. That also applies to temporary nature of his relationship. He doesn't want any of those relationship to be permanent, doesn't want it to last long, doesn't want to go deep. So I have one issue with that. It is not clear whether detachment is detachment is not a virtue. Is it the inability to attach? Is that what he calls detachment? Or is he advocating detachment? And because he says attachment is bad, or at best it should be limited. So it is more of a self-preservation after some time. It's almost like putting his hand into water, and after that he takes it away. So it was not very clear, because he is also ambivalent about it, where lack of compassion and compassion go together. He shows compassion, and when it comes to some level, he suddenly withdraws. So the whole story, I feel, it should be seen only from Henry's eyes, and the role of the society, capitalistic education system, all are just examples of how an individual, even with good intentions, is unable to relate to many of those things. The one image that stuck was that I feel was central to it is the painting, the sketch somebody makes, and he says, "Oh, it's a faceless person in an empty room." So that sums up a lot. One, he is faceless because he doesn't want to invest any emotion in any of those relationship beyond a point. The empty room, because of that, there is hardly any recipients for his. So I felt that these were the things which made it interesting. It's I feel, overwhelmingly sad movie. It is, yes, it is thought-provoking, but I didn't appreciate it much because it is a bit of a dark in that sense. There is not much, there is a despair, there is a helplessness, but there is not much of a hope. These were the points I felt.
And like as Geeta said about that movie where the student and teachers at the end gets you know on a good side of the teacher and all of that, so they actually find a better version of, they actually turn into a better self and all that. This also happens in the more recent movie which I had seen few years back. This and like in many other movies also this has been shown. And this movie was about this basketball coach, this Coach Carter thing. On it's a 2005 movie, and it was a very mainstream kind of movie. And yeah, the same thing happens. He's a basketball coach, and he makes the rule that he brings this new reforms to the basketball team and make sure that everyone who's playing in the team also gets good grades, and gets into the universities and colleges uh, through sports quota and all of that. And he's also being questioned by the parents and uh, attacked by the parents for bringing these strict rules where he's not allowing kids to play on the field if they're not scoring good on the tests. So all of this happens, and it also turns out to be a very positive and a very. It also ends on a very positive note where the kids win and kids also gets into, the majority of the kids gets into good colleges and all of that. But yeah, there was nothing of that sort here in Detachment. And yeah, that remains as it is. So yeah, it is sad, it is a sad movie indeed. But then it was I would not say it was a kind of sad which left me uh, uh, you know it was not saddening. Like it was a sad ending or anything, but like it was, the ease was there. Some kind of subtle ease was there where I was very weirdly not looking at the fact that kids are troubled and all of that, but I was very like, I don't know, maybe it was maybe I was reflecting on myself or anything, but yeah, it was saddening, but there was some kind of ease when the film ended. It was also there where I was thinking about okay, so like at least he has met Erica and that situation is good. But then I read about that also in some Reddit comment where the person said that maybe the case is that Erica has actually tested positive for HIV and she has very few days left with her, and uh, the protagonist Henry goes back and goes back to where he has actually kind of detached himself deliberately, but he goes back there and he's wearing the ring, so it shows that there is some attachment, and then that also might turn out to be a dark end of the uh, relation. So yeah, it is quite sad. It doesn't leave any kind of a ray of sunshine by the end. So yeah, true.
Yes, Gopika?
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah,
And
hi.
Vedant, thank you so much for the suggestion. I mean, I even posted about it in Instagram. It is one of the most, it's one of those films which made me cry throughout. Like, not just out of sadness, but also I felt like there is hope. Not maybe in the specific case of this professor and his students, but in the sense that there are times when you don't know, you feel doubtful of why you came to the profession, why you're doing a PhD, or like what kind of difference would it make all in the end. So like how he was able to at least touch a little upon the personal lives of students, so it gives you that hope. Okay, maybe sometime in future you might be able to help out at least one. So of course I get that heroic theme sounds a little egoistic,
Yeah.
but I also think that somewhere, like along the line, especially during that age, I had looked up to quite a number of teachers, mostly female teachers, of course, but the kind of presence and the kind of comfort they give, that was immense. So I could relate to it a lot. Uh, Even in small instances where there was a friend of mine who was motherless, and this ma'am actually asked her to call her mom only. So for almost 7, 8 years, she had somebody to call mother. It might seem very sentimental, but to a girl who's on the in the teenage curve, it made a lot of difference for her. So having known things like that, so teaching has always been that kind of a profession for me where I wanted to be like that teacher. So this film resonated a lot. And to talk about the themes as such, I think that detachment that he was talking about, it might be a coping mechanism that he like picked up during the childhood. The detachment is not only from the people, like the students or the people he met later in life, but also from the people in his past. Like as Nicola ma'am pointed out, he's revisiting the past. That might be a cause of detachment, but he's also detached from the people of past, like mother, grandpa. It is because of that detachment that he's able to talk to grandfather without any remorse or resentment, I think. Otherwise, people might even end up throwing the person out who caused so much misery in their lives. Also, I found it interesting that they haven't explicitly stated what went wrong between the grandfather and the mother, and it is through incidents where they superimpose images that you kind of understand what is going on. It could also hint at the blurriness of memories, like where he keeps asking grandpa to write down. Maybe it is like, have you written in your journal? So it could be like asking, looking for an evidence to kind of cement his own ideas of what happened in the past, not necessarily to take revenge, but to make sense, to act as a narrative for himself. That I found. Then yeah, like that girl Erica, oh my god, like the foster where she's sent to HIV test, I'm not sure how they, of course, they asked them to call back immediately, but still, I do not think it was dark. See, a girl like that could have ended up dying on the street also. But
Yeah.
because of a person like him, she got to experience at least like a family dinner kind of thing, attending the. Maybe she didn't even have a grandparent to look after. It's through Henry that she experienced family. So that, I think, is the hope that the film puts forth. So even in the end, when he says, okay, the classroom looks like a house of usher, maybe he doesn't realize that he is the ray of hope. So I don't think he was the heroic, it was an egoistic kind of thing that he did. He was blissfully like unaware of what the good that he was bringing to the world, is what I felt. So thank you. I mean, like, I loved the film. Just beautiful.
Thank you for the for adding the colors to to the end, because yeah, it actually helps. Like, yeah, I like your perspective on how things would have turned out and have turned out in the film. Yeah.
Any other responses, questions? Madhurima, Tarkeshwar, would you like to speak? Yes, Madhurima. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I have one or two comments that are mostly based on my personal observations. So, am I audible or is there any
Yes,
disturbance?
no, you are.
Yeah. One thing I found interesting is the way language is being used in the specific context of a teacher-student relationship. And I find that it is very different from the Indian context. Because in the Indian context, we don't usually use this kind of language, but I have seen it in other American films or web series as well. And it reminds me of another film. It is sort of contemporary, like it was a film by Rani Mukherjee, Hichki, where she was supposed to teach a group of slum children in an elite school. And there also she faces some similar sort of challenges that a teacher would not face with the students coming from a particular socio-political background. This was one issue I noticed. And the other issue with respect to language is that sometimes, like the teacher mentioned, that these people are using these sorts of language because they lack self-awareness. But I find that in some cases, this teacher himself and also the other counselor, they also end up using the same sort of language that is coming from some sort of frustration. Maybe that has its roots in the social system. Maybe. These are just my observations. And the other point that Vedant mentioned, that he has a sense of empathy. Empathy, yes, but also I feel that he has a sense of social responsibility in himself. And that can be unconscious as well. So whenever he meets someone, he feels some sort of responsible because maybe in his childhood, he didn't find anyone responsible as such. So in his cases, he creates the own relationships through this sense of responsibility. And when any relationship becomes too personal or too attached, he doesn't know how to communicate there. So he wants to get out of the relationship. He doesn't communicate the fact that I want this relationship in this particular way and not in that direction. That is never present in the movie. And through this, it also questions another thing, that is how we perceive specific relationships. Because there are different kinds of love present. And in both of the two contexts, in the sense of the teacher and the other sense of the teenage girl, they both feel that it is a love relationship, whereas this love can be described in various other manners, which he could have done because he was in the dominant, he was the older person. He was the more mature person, which he could have done, but he was not able to do it. And the other issue that he points out uh, through his sort of interview, like when he was commenting on the past incidents, was the issue of parenting, which I felt was a really important issue. He said that uh, uh, that there should before you become a parent, there should be a lesson about how to become a parent, and he made it some sort of ironical, like don't try it at home, something like that. So I felt that was very interesting, and thank you, Vedant, for recommending the movie. It made me question many of the things and many of the issues. Thank you.
Yeah, and just to add, Madhurima, to what you just said about the language, used between the student and the teacher, uh, not just language, but even gestures. There is so much aggression in the students. That boy throwing the teacher's bag, or even that gruesome scene of a student killing the cat.
Yeah.
So there's such a great deal of aggression amongst the students, which of course is a pointer to the larger issue of the social context of American society. So I thought, along with language, this was also something that is very specific to Western society.
And the act of pulling out an image of you know uh, infected vagina in front of a student by this old teacher. I don't remember his name, but he actually does, like, suddenly puts out an image of female genitals infected with some sort of uh, sexually transmitted disease, and shows it to her, and gets her to wear a sweatshirt. So yeah, that was also a very uh, aggressive gesture on the teacher's part, uh, as, too. And that guy, the very weird person who actually thinks that if he's holding uh, the railing, the fence, he is invisible and people cannot see him. It was, I don't know, it was just a very absurd thing. And he also screams at his students, and then the aggression is shown where the the dean is talking on a radio tape, not the radio tape, the answering machine kind of thing, and he's talking to his colleague, and he says that I'm just done with all of this, and he's talking about how he is fed up of how students, the little students, are treating teachers, and then he goes on to scream about it, and then the sudden uh, transfer is there where Hitler's voice is kind of what do you call it? Hitler's voice
Co-imposed.
overshadows his voice, and then the scene comes where Hitler is giving a speech, and they are showing a video and all of that. So yeah, that was also a very again aggressive gestures, and through the lens of the director also. So yeah, it was there, the language and aggression, and just yeah.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
may I, may I
Yeah,
add
please,
one
please,
point?
please go ahead. Yes.
See, one thing we should remember, at least in my experience, many of our movies in Indian context and even in the Western thing, for example, in Lagan or Sir with Love and many other movies, it is feel-good movie, even including that basketball coach thing, where the underdog finally becomes wins, or the poor becomes rich, or the innocent become better later, and justice is done, and so which in real life might not happen. And that way, this movie is much more realistic one, where nothing dramatic happens, except probably the grandfather gets peace of mind because Henry says you are not responsible for that or whatever. Or whether it was true or not, he gets some relief in that the end. So in that sense, see, Henry is a realistic character in the sense, in the society in which he lives. And I don't accept that it is only the Western society that has all this. We don't portray any of these problems in our society. That's why society looks very peaceful and great and all that. Anyway, that apart, uh, the the end is realistic. Not end, the whole movie is realistic because Henry tries whatever he can, and fails in some places, succeeds a little, but at least he tries and succeeds a bit and fails a bit. So that way, it reflects the reality of what is happening. Thank you.
But then there's also a scene where they show that nobody showed up to the open house, and that also I found very biased on the side of the school, because like, how is it the case where nobody shows up to an open house? That it's
No,
actually
I think it is more of lack of confidence, lack of any this one and that something is going to change. They don't have any confidence in the system. So coming there is a waste of time. Like some mother says, sending my son here is a waste of time, and you are spoiling it, etc. There is no comfort in any of those relationships, whether it is a teacher, whether it is a girl, or whether it is between the old man and the grandson and so on. So I think it is more realistic. If so many people had come and got inspired, I would have said that that is a bit unrealistic and against the grain of the movie itself.
But then, what about the Meredith's father, who is actually concerned about her performances at school, and he wants his daughter to be at a Princeton, in Princeton or something, and then like, I assume that he would, of all the students, would have at least came, and then the guy with ADHD, the father whose son have ADHD, and who he thinks that he has some sort of learning disability, and he's not able to perform because teachers are not teaching him well. So like, why would he not show up at the open
No,
house?
but they all feel that it is of no use coming and talking to the same system which has not helped them. I mean, this is the way I saw it. They don't have any confidence that these people, the teachers or the school or the system, is going to solve their problem. While somebody wants their child to go to Princeton, they think this is not going to help by coming to this meeting. That's what I felt. There is a desperation, there is a lack of confidence in the system itself.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other comments? Yes, Tarkeshwar, please go ahead.
Yeah, the discussion is quite interesting. I also thought that in the entire movie, the parents are at the receiving end. The way they have been characterized there. Even that Matilda's father is thrusting certain things against her will. When she is interested in painting, he wants her to become something else. He wants her to lose weight and things like that. But I slightly disagree with the view that this film is realistic. I would say it's hyperbolic. Yes, there are problems, but it's slightly exaggerating it. Exaggerating it to highlight the protagonist as a very sensitive character. All the characters, in fact, except the parents, have this gray shade in them, except the protagonist again. He is very sensitive. The other teachers and even students, they oscillate between the two. There is a scope for them to change. Some students do change after this his intervention. Teachers also, they are interested, but they can't do anything. Some kind of helplessness. So only the parents are seen as unchanging. In fact, there are direct lines about it. So in that sense, I was thinking that the movie lays its hand on a problem, but it doesn't know how to handle it. It by not giving a resolution to the plot, it tries to keep it more complex. Because the intention is not to give a resolution, but to focus on the protagonist. Again, why protagonist is sensitive, why he get detached. In fact, he is the one who is more attached. He wants to do something there, he wants to in the process. Though he is there for only a few days, he knows it is a temporary fellow, but he wants to intervene. But again, the problem with him is again his parents, his family. So the crisis seems to be that the family is unable to impart certain kind of values that is necessary for the children, and the education system is unable to stand for the family, and the students themselves are lost because there is a contrast between what the curriculum expects it to be, in the sense that they want to teach classicals, while the students are more in tune with the popular culture, not the classical culture. So in that sense, there are dichotomies, there are issues, and nobody is trying to pinpoint the issues over there. Everybody is caught up in their own quote unquote the crisis or the childhood trauma haunting them in the present. Again, the childhood trauma, the family is blamed, the parents are blamed. So in that sense, it is hyperbolic. I thought the entire movie, if it is trying to lay his hands on the crisis in education. Why I am saying it is, if you look at even the popular movies, even in India, always the college is presented as people who are full of mischief. But again, in the popular movie, there is some scope for the transformation. There is some kind of happy ending. But always the students are so, they are not interested in coming to class. They harass the teacher. But when there is crisis, they come together and they do something like that. So in that sense, this kind of crisis is always perceived in education. But now whom to blame? We can pass on the buck. And here there's no passing on the buck, it's left open-ended.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Thank you for an interesting movie which, by keeping the plot open-ended, it allows you to think about it. Being hyperbolic, it makes you think about the real issue. Thank you.
And like adding on, I would like to add on to that thing where they ignore the schools, the schools shortcomings, and they are portraying the parents in the bad light. Where the school is also actually not shown to be supportive of arts or photography, or be it photography, be it sketches or anything. The school is also concerned about finishing the curriculum and all of that, but the person who's painted in the bad light of not promoting the creativity in the child is Meredith's father, and not the board or not the teachers or anything. Like again, yeah, all of that is there. So yeah, the biasness is could be seen in the narrative.
Any other comments? No? Okay, in that case, we will conclude this session. Thank you very much, Vedant, for opening the discussion for this extremely interesting film. All of us here have thoroughly enjoyed watching it and talking about it, which is what TFO is all about. And thank you all for logging in. See you next Saturday. Good night. Have a nice Sunday.
Thank you, Vedant. Good
Thank
night.
you.
And thank you so much for having getting me to allowing me to talk about the movie on this platform, because I have not been able to get out of my room and ponder about other things than my exams, because I have them next month. So like this was a really nice and a very well timed break that I
Thank you.
got. Yeah.
Thank you. Most welcome. And all the best to you for your exams.
Thank you. I need it.
Okay, then. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
See you all next week.
Yes, good night.